evening, Pittsburgh Steelers Nation. It's Marky Billson giving you a preview of the Rams-Steelers game. It's going to be a throwback weekend at Heinz Field. They had a big dinner last night celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Super Bowl 14 team. Super Bowl 14 was such a huge game in Steelers history, maybe the biggest one ever. I know it wasn't the game that Super Bowl 13 was, in that allowed the Steelers to become the first team to win 3 Super Bowls, but when they had twice as many as any other team, that really was dominant, and it really did intensify the Steelers as the team of the 70s. And keep in mind, less than a month before, there was some question over whether or not they would do that. They had to beat the Miami Dolphins in the playoffs, and if the Dolphins had won that game, then they would have had the opportunity to win 3 Super Bowls in the decade, same as the Steelers, and then there would have been a huge, well, what team was better in the decade? And to be honest with you, an undefeated record with a couple of victories over the Steelers in the playoffs would definitely have probably swayed the tide to the Miami Dolphins as team of the 70s. But so that's how important the 79 playoffs were for the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so it's so appropriate that they play the Rams. Here's something you may not know about the Steelers and Rams. Now, I realize they only play once every 4 years nowadays, and once every 8 years on the road. But the Steelers have never won in Los Angeles except for Super Bowl 14. That wasn't played at the Coliseum, it was played at the Rose Bowl. Highest attended Super Bowl of all time, even to this day. And it was very memorable for me, being 8 years old in the Point Breeze neighborhood in Pittsburgh. Just the environment, the pride, it was never greater. There was the City of Champions. And just to give you an example, maybe going down Forbes Avenue, the business district in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, every storefront had that sign up, Pittsburgh Steelers, first team to win 3 Super Bowls, usually with a picture of Terry Bradshaw on the sign or something like that. They didn't have that. They had the Point, which was still a relatively new, construction. There's tremendous pride around Pittsburgh. It's why I have always identified with the city. And, 8 years old, I only lived there 1 year, but that was it. Pittsburgher for life. You couldn't help but pick up on it. 40 years ago, the phrase was not "Here we go Steelers," but "Steal it Steelers." There was a 45 going around. I bought one at Reynolds Market. There's a business from the past. But it was constructed by a man named Freddie Walters. And I mentioned this because everywhere you went, Pittsburgh is incredible. They will put signage on their lawns, on their houses, when the Steelers are always doing well, or the Penguins, or whoever, really. And it's one thing when you do that in a working class neighborhood, I think, but when you do it in the rich neighborhoods, when the houses that now go for $750,000 have "Steal it Steeler" signs up on them, that really is an environment very unique to Pittsburgh, and really is a wonderful way how the community all comes together. So I can't wait to come back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Let's talk a little bit about the game. The Steelers are going to be down 3 running backs. This, obviously, Connor is still out. Roosevelt Nix, the fullback. Yes, there's still fullbacks in the NFL, folks, if you can believe it. And also out is Benny Snell Jr. So, I did, though, like what I saw from Jaylen Samuels against the Colts. First of all, I really thought he was a strong running back. If you remember, in the first half, there was a situation where he had a goal line carry, took it to the goal line, the ground caused the fumble. Well, of course, that can't happen, but what I was really impressed with is that Darius Leonard of the Colts tried to strip the ball away from Samuels and really, for all intents and purposes, should have been able to do so. But Samuel's grip, he was so strong that it prevented the fumble. I liked what I saw. Also, if you look at the stats, Samuel's statistics are very comparable to James Conner as a receiver coming out of the backfield, and that's something the Steelers are going to need to win. Mason Rudolph does seem to be more comfortable in a short passing game than, say, Ben Roethlisberger or even Duck Hodges, who showed me that they're more willing to take the ball downfield. But so the screen pass to the running back is very important. While Samuels is not getting the yards per catch that Conner is, he's still catching as many balls and has still performed quite well in that role. So, again, love the strength. North Carolina State holding on to the ball as Darius Leonard from South Carolina State tried to strip it away from him. There you go. A lot of talk. JuJu Smith-Schuster is supposedly questionable. It's a limited practice. I'm almost positive he will play. Of course, I'm not a doctor, but nevertheless, wouldn't it seem like questionable I would be getting out onto the field? Now, there's been a lot of talk about JuJu Smith-Schuster. Is he a number one wide receiver? I can't imagine that you would say that he isn't. 76-yard touchdown reception this year. Last year, the 97-yard touchdown reception, longest in team history. Please tell me how this is not a number one receiver. Now, some people are saying, well, he's not catching the passes he did last year. He's only ranking 46th. Yes, 46th in the NFL in receptions. Well, that might have something to do with the fact that the Steelers have thrown one of the fewest totals of passes in the NFL this year. In terms of passing attempts, the Chargers have thrown the most passes this year. The Steelers are 26th in a 32-team league. Hard to catch passes when you're not throwing the ball. Yes, I know, JuJu Smith-Schuster fumbled the game away against the Saints. Okay, so he's not as strong as Samuels and all that. Ben Roethlisberger on the final series of the Super Bowl against the Packers went 4 and out. Not robots here, folks. JuJu Smith-Schuster is definitely a number one receiver. Just like I said, hard to catch the ball when they don't throw it. But that means that it is all the more imperative for Jaylen Samuels to have a big game. I did like what I saw from him against the Colts. But the final thought here is just what is it about the Steelers and backup running backs? I mean, in the Le'Veon Bell days and all this, remember when the Steelers back in 2015 were down to their third-string running back in the playoffs. Well, the situation repeats itself now in the regular season. Thankfully for the Steelers, the schedule gets very easy after the Rams, two teams that desperately need a victory, and if they don't win the game, will be met with cynicism and scorn from a cynical fan base. Folks, I'm Marky Billson. I do a lot of these videos. Please like my YouTube page. Subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm putting up content every day. Not only the archives of my old sports talk show, but also comments right now about the Steelers. Also, if you live in East Tennessee State football and athletics and the Tennessee Volunteers football team. I'm Marky Billson.